I'm just going to wait for people to drop in for a couple of seconds. Welcome everybody to today's webinar with Tribes, how to unlock the true value of AI. I'm just going to give it a minute because we've got quite a few people joining us today. So we're just going to wait for everybody to drop in. We can see them joining us. So just give it a minute. See those numbers racking up. People join. What are we doing? Coming in thick and fast, Eleanor. Give it another minute or so just to make sure we get everybody in before we get going. Welcome to those who are just joining us. We're just giving it a couple of minutes before we get started, just so we get as many people in as possible before we get started. But welcome to today's webinar, How to Unlock the True Value of AI with Tribes and Eleanor Manley. Let's see, we'll give it another couple of seconds. People are still joining us. Just wait and see who we get coming in. Okie dokie, let's get started. So welcome everybody to today's webinar. I'd like to introduce you to Eleanor Manley, who is the AI director at Tribes. Eleanor's background is in deep learning engineering, specialising in natural language processing. Eleanor started a career as an entrepreneur by founding Metaspace. She started the startup, raised 3 rounds of funding, including US-based VC Techstars, and was featured by NATO, Bosch, and Times Square in New York City. At Tribes, Eleanor is currently helping 2 major global brands with their AI roadmap, as well as assisting organisations of all sizes to build their AI products. You can look out for Eleanor's upcoming TED Talk about ethical AI in the coming weeks. During this webinar, Eleanor will be running you through her AI Lightning Strikes framework for value-focused AI product builds, a step-by-step process to help companies build AI products from ideation to iteration. By the end of the webinar, we hope you'll walk away with a greater understanding of AI, and more importantly, what is the best way for your organisation to build AI products. We will be hosting Q&A at the end of the webinar, so please feel free to put your questions into the Q&A. And I'll also be sharing a couple of links in the chat where you'll be able to book into Eleanor's diary to book a free AI strategy call and also learn a little bit more about Eleanor's work. And without further ado, over to you, Eleanor.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah, for the very kind introduction. And hi, everyone. It's amazing to see so many of you dropping in. There were loads of people to sign up, and it's great to be connected with the virtual non-execs, as well as any other community that has joined today. Yeah, we're going to really try and use this session as best as we can to get as much value for you as possible, looking at AI use cases, looking at the AI landscaping, and really taking you through the step-by-step that I do for big organizations all the time. So I really hope that you find this insightful. Please, I want this to be quite interactive. So, I'm going to do quite a short and sweet presentation, and then we'll go straight into Q&A where you can ask any questions that have been on your mind about AI, whether it's about product build, or even if it's about kind of a broader AI landscape. If you're like, what's going to happen in the future of AI? What do I need to be aware of that? These are all questions that are very welcome and encouraged. So yeah, I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen. Today we're going to be using Miro. I love this platform because it's very visual for us to kind of work through together. And before I jumped into the presentation, I wanted to give you a little bit of background on the organization that I'm working with. So Tribes Agency, Tribes that's based in Manchester, and we're all about bringing the best people together. So as their AI director, I'm really helping with everything to do with AI consulting. But Tribes also has around 6,000 developers on their platform. So if you ever need a developer, they are the ones to go to, whether it's software, whether it's artificial intelligence, data science, you name it. We've got this great pool of talent. And then on the other side, we also do bespoke builds with our studio. So just very briefly, and you'll have all these links, you'll have the links to my Notion page here where you can look a little bit more about what I do, the white papers that I've written about artificial intelligence that might be useful to you, but also how to book a call with me. And so a little bit on my background. So my name is Eleanor Manley. I'm currently working as the AI director at Tribes. My background is in engineering. So I started off my career in data science and rapidly fell in love with machine learning, and especially deep learning with natural language processing, which is how a computer understands text. As you know, with kind of the craziness and the frenzy around AI at the moment, large language models and natural language processing by, respectively, have really changed the landscape of artificial intelligence. And I feel very fortunate to have been in that space quite early on, and to be able to use that knowledge today with the clients and also with my own organization, Metaspace, which, as Sarah mentioned, we were VC backed and featured on Times Square. You can see a little feature there, which was an amazing moment, as well as the opportunity to speak at NATO and present our in Bosch and many other organizations. I wanted to do a really quick call out to a virtual non-exec member today, who I spoke to yesterday just before this webinar. And so spoke to David, and David is heading up the fund AI at River Capital. So, obviously there's probably people in the crowd today who, some of you are interested in building AI products, but if you're interested in funding AI products as well, I definitely encourage you to have a look at River Capital and the work that they're doing, which is really, really cool. The first, the North's first dedicated AI fund. So it's a pretty big deal. So, without further ado, I really wanted to just set the scene about what is the AI landscape today. So these are kind of some of the questions that I get a lot. The baseline questions of, what is the future of jobs? Is AI coming for my job? What kind of jobs is it coming for? When it comes to that question, it's a fantastic one because, we're definitely seeing AI affect areas that we wouldn't have expected. I'm sure a couple of years ago, many of you would have seen that we were really thinking that artificial intelligence and automation was probably going to affect blue-collar jobs the most. And actually, we're seeing, the creative world, which was always, creativity is the only thing that's human, be the most affected by it. So we're seeing a really interesting kind of paradigm shift at the moment in the job market about where AI is actually disruptive. Another thing that I wanted to mention about the AI landscape is to do with the types of models that we're using today. So what we're seeing is more and more individuals are using within deep learning unsupervised machine learning or black box AI. And black box AI is when you can't see how a type of artificial intelligence is actually producing its results, which might seem completely crazy to most people. Is how is it that the people building this technology don't really know how it works? But that is the case with black box algorithms and foundation models that we're seeing, whether it's with, the ChatGPT S types, the BARDs, the Perplexity AI, all of those are using deep learning and neural networks, and is the topic of my TED Talk in a couple of weeks. And this kind of really came about from transformers that emerged in 2017, which is a type of technology for neural networks. So there's a lot that we could cover in terms of the AI landscape, but what I would encourage is if you had any specific questions about the AI landscape, I would love for you to put it in the chat and I can help you answer them. Usually with the clients that I work with, as we're starting this process together, we'll kind of produce some kind of a landscaping document for them to understand, okay, where does my product build? Where does artificial intelligence that I want to build fall in within the larger AI landscape? And the reason why it's so important to know where the types of artificial intelligence that you're building fall into the larger landscape. So, especially if we're looking at what is going on between big startups and big tech. Is the AI that I'm going to be building, or the product or the software that I'm going to be building, still going to have value in a couple of years? Or is a large organization like Google or Meta just going to completely monopolize and dominate that market? So those are super important questions that we have to ask ourselves as we're figuring out the types of artificial intelligence that we might be building. And in my eyes, when it comes to the role of executives, especially the role or anyone within an organization that might not be technical, you can really come in from a very customer-centric business approach to understand, okay, what type of artificial intelligence should we build for our organization? Should we be building something for increasing sales? There's a real value that you can bring even as a non-technical person to the table, and I really want to deep dive into that today to help you through, and how to also address those conversations within your own organization. So what I'm going to be focusing on today is a framework that we developed at Tribes called the AI Value Lightning Strikes Framework. This is a really interesting framework that we found very useful for a lot of the organizations and individuals that we've worked with. Really, the goal here is to build products in AI that are actually value focused. What does that mean? We've seen a lot of organizations and a lot of individuals kind of be quite frantic around artificial intelligence at the moment, this idea of we have to build. And it's very important that we cut through the hype here, that we really see, okay, but where is it that we can find value in artificial intelligence, and making sure that it works for you, not the other way around. So, we're going to spend a lot of time figuring out why we're going to be building this. And then we also want to make sure that it's innovative, so that you are actually pushing the boundaries of what is possible. And, thirdly, for in my eyes, this is so important. It's done within all kind of product development in tech, is this idea of iterative learning. So iterative learning is the concept of, not building something too big too quickly, but rather going about it in iterative steps. So, we might start off with an MVP, so a minimum viable product that you go out and test, and then you can keep improving it from there. So the AI Value Lightning Strikes framework has those goals in mind, being value focused, innovative, and iterative. And then throughout it has a layer of technical documentation to make sure that we have full transparency as we're going through it. So kind of in brief, what we're doing here together is that this framework allows teams to go from ideation to prototype with a clear step-by-step. And the sort of deliverables that we're looking at here together is, well, first, we want to look at what is the new innovation range that you want for the organization. And this is going to really play an important role as well into the AI landscape that we just discussed. You obviously want the full AI technical documentation to be able to build with an AI product management proposal, like how are we going to build it, what are we building, and a technical partner choice assessment, because you can have kind of the best idea in the world, but if you haven't got the right team to build it, obviously you're not going to get very far. So these are all really important considerations that we want to bear in mind as we're going through the step-by-step process. And, like all in all, it's to answer the question of what is the right formula for disruption for your company. We really like this metaphor of lightning strikes because it's disruptive, but within a very set scope. So, it's about being very laser focused and impactful with each artificial intelligence product that we build together. And so that's just a very kind of brief overview of what we're going to be doing today. And, please, as we're going along, put in questions in the chat, because I'm going to be running through this quite quickly. And usually I do this over a couple of weeks with organizations. So if you're like, Eleanor, I didn't really understand what you meant by product management, go into the chat and just ask me the question there. So
can I just jump in? Sorry, we have had a question. I don't know if we want to answer this before. I don't know if you can see it, but Rich has put, I'm guessing a transformer is an Optimus Prime. What is it and its relationship to the common AI platforms? So obviously it goes back to the question.
Great. Yeah, let's quickly jump back to what a transformer is then. So a transformer, you're right, is not a robot car. No, it's not. A transformer was developed in 2017, and there was a paper that was released called Attention is All You Need. And it basically set out the foundations of how we go about using deep learning today and neural networks. So neural networks are used to kind of imitate how our brain works. And they're kind of these models that uses layers of neural networks to combine and understand things. And transformers are a specific type to get to that information. And it's a very technical kind of term, and I'm happy to share kind of some more information about it at a later date. But thank you very much for the question. So yeah, jumping back into like the lightning strikes framework that we looked at together. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is kind of set the scene of the innovation range. So we were working with lots of big organizations, and we found that many of them were using McKinsey's 3 horizons of growth. Maybe that's something that you guys might be familiar with as well. And it's something that was established in the 2000s. And just the timeline is a bit outdated today. So, what we're looking at now is, okay, how can we set the scene for your AI product development that allows for faster iterations of product development and innovative learning? But there are still some questions that we can definitely take from McKinsey's 3 horizons. So, for example, when we're looking at building new products, are we looking to build it in defense and expansion of your current core business, to foster new and emerging business, or to seed future businesses? But the timeline and the value is going to be completely different. And some other questions that I would definitely ask about is, does it align with the company's values? How much value does it provide? What's the potential? And how do we quickly try something? So how do we quickly build something? And so what we came up with is the kind of 4 T's approach. I'm actually going to do this exercise with you live to kind of give you an example of how you can use the 4 T's yourself within your own organization. So a little bit about the 4 T's is, when it comes to artificial intelligence and the ideas that you might have, sometimes it's difficult to understand, okay, what should we actually build and what can we just kind of leave for the time being? And so what we looked at here is, can we create a framework that helps you understand where these belong? So, let's go through this one by one. We have first this idea of thought. So it's really, initially, we're looking at serving as a creative incubation for AI ideas to be explored. And, at each step, we have a criteria. So we're first looking at something that has novelty, relevance, and feasibility. And then we'll go into evaluation of the AI ideas through the theory. We'll then go into the trial, so where we'll go to pilot projects, and then we'll go into transformation, which is going to be this idea of iterative learning. So, to give you this example in a little bit more depth, I wanted to actually take you through how you could use this within your own organization. So I put up a couple of examples here of ideas that I've heard thrown out in boardrooms, in loads of different contexts. So, recently there's been a new AI coding bot assistant that's been released. So, kind of that idea to have internally within a company, an organization might say, we want to build our own that's very specific to our internal knowledge. Or, another idea could be that, okay, I'm looking at AI enhanced VR, so virtual reality experiences for customers. And then, what about we have an AI assistant for our CEO? So someone that could actually help them through the process. So, using the four T's framework, what we're looking at here is, how do we move these ideas forward to decide which one we should actually build? And this is obviously an extremely high level view here, but there's a couple of things that we want to bear in mind. So imagine we've got these 3 ideas on the table, and we're looking at the AI enhanced VR for customers. And, we have the criteria here, and we say, yeah, we agree it's very novel, we think it is relevant for us, but is it actually feasible? Can we actually evaluate it in terms of the practicality that we have within this organization? And, perhaps you'll say, well, actually, no, like VR kind of has a hardware component usually to it, and we're just looking to do software and AI. So perhaps we leave that in the thought process, but we still really want to explore the ideas of the AI coding bot and the CEO AI assistant. So, we'll then turn that, and these guys will be moved up to the next stage. As we're going through this again, we'll ask very similar questions in terms of, okay, what can we do in terms of the evaluation of the AI idea and the feasibility? So we want to make sure that is aligned, and we'll go through again. And the goal is basically to pass them through this step by step until we can finally get one that we can trial on. So that will be here. So this is really just a very quick kind of overview of the 4 T's framework that I find really good to set the scene for things, to understand, okay, how are we moving things through from the first just ideation idea to actually the trial. Sarah, was there another question?
There is another question, so I just wanted to, I think it's relevant for where we are. So somebody, Jonathan, has put, how often do clients start with a goal, but then the work with your organisation, so with Tribes, ends up delivering something which was not what was originally the idea, what was the original idea. They put, they're trying to work out how much work needs to be done up front to identify the value in a project, and how much value comes out of the process itself, with obviously Tribes and yourselves.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much for the question. That actually goes really well to kind of the next part, which is, as you can see, called the value. So we're going straight into this. To answer your question on a high level is, yeah, we find that it's very different. There's some people who are very clear about what they want to build, but don't know how to build it. But there's others who know what they want to build, but don't know why they're building it. So it really depends on where your organization is coming from. And to first, before we figure out the what and the how, it's so important we figure out the why. And so this is what we do, these couple of exercises with organizations, and we have two types of exercises. So first, why are we building this internally? Like, why do we, as a team, believe that this product could have value? And so this framework was actually taken from the VC that I was funded by, and they required that all the startups who went through and were funded by them actually did this exercise. And I think it has a lot of value as well when you're doing mini product developments, not just for startups. Because the biggest liability to a product development is team misalignment. So what we tend to do first is we actually ask each team member that is actively participating as stakeholders in a development to understand, okay, what is that you want to do? What's your desired outcomes? What's the problem statement you're trying to work with? What is your metrics of success, your key assumptions, and the potential risks? Because once we can really identify and make sure that the organization is aligned, we can then move on a little bit more to the value of why we're building this for the end user. And so, we have a couple of more exercises that we look at as well, like who are the different types of stakeholders, but really the technical documentation here that we're looking to build is a business requirements document, which means that you tend to do a business requirements document when you're building completely new development features with big features, but you don't tend to need one if you're instead just having an add-on. So that's where we'll be looking here. But then if we're going into, so we've gone from, why we're building it, the value within internally for the organization. Now, let's then look at why we're building this, the impact on the end user, or who this might be for. And the reason for this, and this is one of my favorite quotes, and it's so important, if there's one thing that you can remember today from this presentation, is that a product that has no users is a failed product. And that goes for anything. And within artificial intelligence, especially as people are trying to build so rapidly, we need to make sure that we're focusing on on problems rather than just solutions. Because if you're exclusively focusing on solutions, so that's usually like something sounds interesting rather than, oh, someone has an immediate pain point, you tend to really miss out on innovative ideas. And so this is where you're going to have a look at users and really deep dive into them. So, you could do different persona work to understand, what problem are you solving for your user. And this is where we look at trying to build another type of documentation called the product positioning document. And this is, a moment to consolidate and add more detail about why and who you're building for. Again, the reason why we have so much documentation is because when you're then going into development and you're going to a team, whether externally or internally, of technical people, you want to have a full 360 holistic view on, okay, what are we building, why are we building, and how are we building it? So as to make sure that you don't end up with a product being built that is not in line with what you had initially discussed. And then we, the next step of the lightning strikes framework is we're going to be going into what are we building. So the feature ideation that can go quite granular into the different types of features and pain points so that we can build out our product specifications. And then after that, we'll actually do a how we're building this. And this is a little bit more technical and tend to have some more technical elements to it. For example, the different AI tech team members that you might need to build a product. This is where I like to divide it up into who are the vital members that you're going to need, from AI engineers to software to UX UI to, the people who are likely part of this project that might include data scientists, cloud engineers, and then management also obviously play a super important roles. And I just wanted to quickly also note that there's obviously different types of people that you can hire for building AI. That can be your in-house tech team, that can be technical freelancers, that can be technical agencies. But really, it has to work for your organization. And so what we tend to do is also help you with that, as well as building out this functional requirements document. So I know I've just kind of totally word vomited a lot of information about, what we've been doing, what the lightning strikes framework is, but I just wanted to quickly, have a reminder that this is a step-by-step process, and the goal here is to help you build an actual product. We want to build an actual product, and with that's why we need to make sure that we have the why, we have the what, and we have the how. And this is where kind of with this framework that we've developed, we're really about having these deliverables to understand, okay, how can we bring this forward? And there's some companies that we work with that end up building, just maybe a lot smaller than they had initially expected, while other ones realize actually we want to do something that's like a totally moonshot idea and completely disrupt their business. So it's, again, it's about finding the correct formula of disruption for your organization. So that was just a real teaser of the lightning strikes framework. And I don't know if there's any questions that we can go through, and yeah, Sarah, go for it.
We have got a couple in the Q&A. So from Steve, we've got, how does the EU AI Act affect us in Britain, both as an exec who wants to use AI within an organisation and as a development team looking to build AI solutions?
Thank you so much for that question. So the EU Act actually just passed today. It's been a long, long time in the making. And there's a couple of points that you have to know about the EU AI Act, is that firstly, it's not really that granular. It proposes quite a high level framework to understand the different levels of safety concerns that we might have. And so basically we're looking at what is high risk AI and what isn't. And so, the types of high risk AI would be, for example, using unsupervised deep learning and black box algorithms that I discussed right at the start with the landscape in healthcare, or something that, or in the military, like something that has a really high potential for harm. And that's something where you need to have a lot more safeguards in place. In terms of any kind of EU law and applications to the UK, they all work the same way. Like if you're building a product for the EU market, but it's being built in the UK, you still need to adhere to the EU regulations. So that's kind of the most important points that I think you would need to bear in mind. But most of the time, like apart from if you're working for the military in healthcare and they have a list of the industries, you'll probably find that you're okay. There's probably some more ethical considerations that you might want to bear in mind, apart from the legal ones as well.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions. They're coming in now. Another one from another Steve. How do you help your clients test the outputs of an AI system? Is that a statistical problem?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So there's loads of different ways that you can test. So generally speaking, the way that you test any type of artificial intelligence is looking at its accuracy score. So anything above 83% is considered state of the art, so very, very good. But it's very hard to get that accuracy score. So you have to kind of make a decision of, okay, do I want to have a niche AI that is very, very correct? Or do I prefer to have a broader AI that might have more applications, but might, not have as high of an accuracy score? So these are kind of more less technical deliberations. Like we can turn them then into very technical specifications, but those are more business strategies that you have to think out first. And that's when I would do that during kind of step 1 and 2, where we were looking at the value and the why. And once you've decided on that, that's when we would turn it into, okay, how can we make sure that this model meets those requirements that your organization or as an individual might need.
Fab. Okay, right. Next one. They're all coming in really quick now. So someone else, Mick, has put, could you share any examples where the lightning strikes framework has delivered successful business outcomes?
Yeah, I would love to. I can't state any names in particular. But at the moment, we're working with a large organization, and they have a big innovation team, and they have lots of verticals, and this innovation team sits horizontally across that. And so they were like, we know that we need to be using artificial intelligence across these verticals and within their own kind of execs and innovation. So, we were starting off with a completely blank page of like, what should we do? And so we actually went through the lightning strikes framework and came up with about 6 different AI ideas, and one that would totally change their whole business potentially. And then now we're looking at, okay, how can we prototype this? So we're still very early on with this client, but I think it's a great example of how a big, quite old school organization, even they're like, okay, we have to do this. We have loads of ideas, but how do we organize them properly? And so, yeah, that's probably the case that comes top to mind.
Perfect. Okay, and then we've got another one. What kind of similar-ish question, I guess.
Yeah.
What kind of things are companies building that increase profit? So what are they? What sort of?
Wow. I mean, that's the golden question, isn't it,
Yeah,
really?
yeah. You can answer that one. I think we'll all be happy.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like when we're looking at what is the value of artificial intelligence, you can kind of divide it into, is it saving time, money, or people? Like those are the 3 things that we're looking at. So, is it reducing headcount by
Automating.
automating things? Is it saving people time so that they can increase their productivity? Or is it actually, saving us money or making us more money by acquiring more customers? So we're seeing a lot of like, there's so many different departments that have the ability to use artificial intelligence today. So it would depend on, okay, out of those 3 that I mentioned, time, people, money, where do you sit? Like, what do you want to do? And then from that point onwards, we would work it out. But I guess going back to the kind of the lightning strikes framework, I always want to, really, if again, you can remember one thing, is we want to be problem focused. So what is it that you have a problem within your organization that is stopping you from making that much profit, stopping you from taking? Is it because you don't have enough time to send out cold emails? Is it because you don't have enough connections? You don't have enough employees? Whatever it is, we need to figure out the problem first, and then we'll go into understanding what type of build we want to do.
Okay. We've got lots more questions. We'll see how many more we can get through. So someone has popped in 83% sounds like quite a low score for some operations at least. Is there a danger of going too early on AI development? Might it be better for some organizations to wait it out for a couple of years until the technology is better, stroke fewer? I'm not sure who, hang on. Yeah, better stroke fewer whole. Honestly, I can't read that word. I'm not gonna lie. You can see it in the Q&A.
Let's see. Oh, hallucinations. Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So I can see the questions now. So yeah, thank you, Jonathan, for that. So 83% is like an academic thing. So it's like when you're looking at technical papers and all of that, that's 83% is the baseline standard for state of the art, like what is accepted. You'd be surprised, it's actually, you know, quite good. And when we're looking at kind of the I'm not sure if you've seen, but like the large language models race at the moment, there's kind of this like, who's going to have the better model? It's a very model centric approach. You'll see how they're like reaching different percentages in accuracy. I don't believe in waiting out for technology. I think it's better to get something small and very specific to your problem out and iterate over it, because technology moves and problems change. And so the problem that you have today might not be the problem that you have in a couple of years. So if you want to address the problem that you want to today, you have to do something that is with the technology that we have. The question on hallucinations, I think, is a very, very important one, because that is one of the biggest issues that we have at the moment with so hallucinations, copyright, and bias. I would say kind of the trio of the issues with large language and foundation models. And we don't know how to solve hallucinations because they're black box, because we can't see what's going on inside. And we don't look like we're close to solving it. So this idea of just waiting around and hoping for the best, I think instead we need to look at the technology in a practical way of, this is what we have right now, how can I use it? And perhaps it's just not the right technology for my problem, and I should be using supervised learning and different types of models. It's just because it's the most popular doesn't mean it's the best one for your use case.
Perfect. We've got a couple more for you. Could you paint a picture about what the business of the future using various AI solutions could look like?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, this is so, again, such a huge question. Changes by company. I would say we could definitely look at it by company size if I was going to divide it up. You know, if we were looking at startups, SMEs, and big enterprises, the way that they use AI is going to be quite specific. What we're probably likely to see is large enterprises really build their own bespoke artificial intelligence solutions. So it's this idea that they can invest a lot of money and resources into building their own models. Startups and SMEs probably aren't going to be able to do that. So what we're going to see instead is them plugging into, you know, APIs or open source models, and have a bit more of a kind of Frankenstein approach to how they use artificial intelligence. But you know, this is a discussion we can talk about for hours. So you know, I know there's a lot of questions, but just remember, you can book a call with me and we can answer some of those together on the link.
So there's another one here. It says, are you doing any work with the education sector to look at how we build AI skills, understanding in the future workforce?
Yeah, this is a great question. Yeah, we are doing some really interesting work as well. We've done some with NGOs and social enterprises, looking at, okay, how can we use AI for everyone and make it useful? I guess I'd be wanting to understand if you meant you know, if we went through the lightning strike framework, but basically when it comes to upskilling and what do organizations and employees need to know, there's definitely some best practices. I think as a first start, kind of acknowledging automation anxiety. So, you know, the fear of, you know, is it going to take my job? How can I use AI? Is the first thing that we should be looking at for the future workforce. So make sure that people are prepared to use AI to uplift our humanity and our workforce rather than overshadow it and create fear around it.
Yeah. And then there's another one, we'll get a couple more in. What is your point of view on how AI will impact research and academia?
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I'm an academic at heart. So thank you. Thank you for this question. You know, it's interesting because I just applied for a research grant, the OpenAI Super Alignment Fast grant. And, you know, you know, we're using more and more artificial intelligence to help us write things, to produce content. But one thing that is so important about when we're using AI to produce content is to know that we are the only ones that can provide the insight. So usually, generally speaking, if you're doing research and you're in the academic scope, you're trying to expand our current understanding of a sector. If you're just using ChatGPT or any other large language model to write your paper for you, you're not expanding on anything. I would say you're actually reducing it. So, you know, you can definitely help it to just, once you have those insights and you're just trying to use it to write papers or whatever, you can definitely, I would, you know, that's not a problem. But yeah, it would be, I think it would be a shame to trust artificial intelligence to work towards the expansion, because that's the only thing that we can do.
Fabulous. We've got a couple more. I don't know if you want to pick. We are obviously reaching the end. I don't know if you want to pick one, Eleanor, that you particularly want to answer, because they're still coming in. We've got lots, and I know we will try it. We'll save all of them, and we can obviously go back
Oh,
to each individual
I love
person.
this question by Stefan, who said, do you believe software developers will be obsolete in the next 10 years? I think it's 2 years, 1 year. You know, or yesterday on X, there was an announcement of, you know, the first AI coder. And we're, you know, at the moment we have to prompt them, but the future could be not even to prompt them at all. So in my eyes, there's a lot of limitations around generative AI and large language models, but one of the best use cases, in my very, very humble opinion, is the ability to use these machines to help us code. And, you know, as long as you can understand the code, you speak the language, you understand the logic behind it, that's really where the value and the architecture behind it, that's really where the value is going to come from. So yeah, thank you for that question.
Fab. I think that's probably, if you want to do another one, but I think we're probably nearing time. Obviously in the chat, everyone, there is a link to be able to book into Eleanor's diary. We will try and follow up on any of the questions we've not answered. There's lots coming in. So we'll try and follow up on those direct with the individuals who have put them in. But like I say, you can book a free AI strategy call with Eleanor. Her link is in the chat. There's also a link to find out a little bit more about her work, and an email address for us at Virtual Non-Execs. If you are struggling with anything, you can reach out to Michelle's email address and we can help you from there. But I just want to say thank you very much, Eleanor. It has been very, very interesting, and I think people have found it really helpful. And yeah,
yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And yeah, please book away. Like my virtual door is always open if you have any questions. But yeah, I hope that you found it insightful. And yeah, thank you for all those who participated. It's very much appreciated.
No worries. Thanks, Eleanor. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye now.
Bye. Bye bye.